What does your life actually look like at every income level in America? From having nothing to making $1 million a year. Not the fantasy, the real version, the apartment, the stress, the choices, the freedom, or the lack of it. Because every time your income jumps to a new level, your entire life quietly reshapes around it. Some levels change everything, others barely move the needle. So let's climb the ladder together, one income at a time, and find exactly where your life is right now and what's waiting at the top. Let's start at the bottom. Zero income, no paycheck coming in. At this level, life isn't measured in dollars, or it's measured in days. How many days until the money runs out, until rent is due, until the fridge is empty? Every decision is survival math. You're leaning on savings if you have them, on family, on credit cards, or on safety nets like unemployment benefits and food assistance. And here's the cruel part. Being broke is expensive. Overdraft fees hit when you're already at zero. You can't buy in bulk. You can't wait for a sale. The stress is constant, and it's not just in your head. Research shows that financial scarcity actually consumes your mental bandwidth, making it harder to think long-term when you're trapped in the now. At zero, the goal isn't wealth, it's stability. It's getting one foot back on the ladder. And the truth most people miss: almost everyone passes through some version of this level. Between jobs after a setback starting out, it's not the end of the story, it's just the first rung. But climbing off it is the hardest step you'll ever take. Now you're working, minimum wage, maybe two jobs, pulling in somewhere around $20,000 a year. On paper, things improved. In reality, you're deep in the paycheck to paycheck zone, and it's crowded here. A huge share of Americans live in it, including plenty who earn far more than this. At $20,000, nearly every dollar is already spoken for before it arrives. Rent eats the biggest bite, and in a lot of cities, a single room can swallow half your income or more. What's left gets split between food, transport, and the phone bill. Saving feels almost impossible because the moment you build a small cushion, life sends a bill. A car repair, a medical copay, a broken tooth. You're not being irresponsible. The math is just brutally tight. This is the level where the system can feel rigged because working hard and still not getting ahead is exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't lived it. But a shift starts here. The first time you manage to save even a few $100s and not touch it, something changes. That tiny buffer is the seed of everything that comes next. Cross into the mid-40s, around $45,000 a year, and you've reached roughly the median income for an individual in America. This is getting by. Not comfortable, not desperate, somewhere in between. You can cover your bills. You can eat out occasionally without a spreadsheet. You might even have a little automatic transfer trickling into savings, but you're one big emergency away from trouble, and you feel it. At this level, lifestyle creep is the quiet enemy. Every raise is tempting to spend. A nicer apartment, a car upgrade, a subscription you forget you have. And that's exactly how people earning decent money still end up feeling broke. The winners at this level do one unglamorous thing. They keep their expenses flat when their income rises, and they bank the difference. $45,000 isn't wealthy, but it's the first level where you have a real choice, where a small, boring, consistent habit can start compounding into something bigger. Most people spend the gap, a few invest it, and 10 years later, those two groups are living completely different lives on almost the same salary. Now we hit a famous number, $75,000. For years, this was called the happiness plateau. A well-known study suggested that beyond about $75,000 a year, more money didn't make people much happier day to day. It became gospel. But newer research has challenged that, finding that for most people, happiness actually keeps rising with income well beyond that point. Money just buys a different kind of comfort. So, what does $75,000 actually feel like? For a single person, it's real breathing room. You can cover your needs, save meaningfully, and still have money left for the things you enjoy. A surprise bill is annoying now, not catastrophic. You can think in months and years instead of days. This is the level where the game changes from surviving to building. Your money can finally start working. Retirement contributions, an emergency fund that's actually full, maybe your first real investments. But here's the trap waiting for you. The more you make, the more you can borrow, and the easier it is to inflate your life right back to the edge. 75,000 gives you options. Whether those options make you free or just more comfortably trapped is entirely up to what you do next. Push into six figures, now let's say around 120,000 a year. And you've entered the upper middle class. This is the level a lot of people dream about, and it does unlock real things. Homeownership becomes realistic in many places. You can max out retirement accounts, take proper vacations, and absorb a financial shock without panic. Life feels stable, but there's a surprise here nobody warns you about. This is where taxes really start to bite. A bigger slice of every extra dollar goes to the government, and for the first time, you start thinking seriously about tax-advantaged accounts. Not because it's trendy, but because it matters. There's also a psychological shift. At 120,000, you're doing objectively well, but you're often surrounded by people doing even better. And comparison can quietly steal the satisfaction you've earned. The people who win at this level stop measuring themselves against their neighbors and start measuring against their own goals. Because here's the thing, $120,000 invested wisely and protected from lifestyle creep is more than enough to build serious wealth over time. The income is no longer the problem. The discipline is the whole game. At around $250,000 a year, you've crossed into the top few percent of earners in the country. This is high income, doctor, lawyer, senior engineer, successful small business owner territory. And life looks the part. A comfortable home, good schools, nice cars, real financial security. But here's what's fascinating about this level. Many people earning $250,000 a year still don't feel rich. Why? Because income is not the same as wealth. A big salary can hide big spending. The mortgage, the 2 car payments, the private tuition, the lifestyle that expands to match every raise. You can earn $250,000 and still be one job loss away from stress if you spent your way up the ladder. The people who convert this income into actual wealth do it deliberately. They live well below their means, they invest aggressively and automatically, and they treat their high salary as a temporary tool to buy freedom, not a license to spend. At this level, the difference between high earner and wealthy comes down to one question. Is your money buying stuff, or is it buying assets that pay you back $500,000 a year? Now you're in the top 1% of earners in America. At this level, if you're even reasonably disciplined, money stops being a daily worry entirely. Your needs are covered many times over. The mortgage is comfortable, the kid's college is handled. You're investing enough that your wealth starts growing on its own, throwing off returns that, for most people, would be a full salary by themselves. This is where money begins to make money faster than you can spend it. But the problems don't disappear. They transform. Your challenges become about time, taxes, and meaning. How do you protect what you've built? How do you avoid handing an enormous share to taxes? And a quieter question starts to surface. What is all of this actually for? At $500,000 a year, the smartest people shift their focus from earning more to designing a life, buying back their time, being deliberate about what they say yes to, and using money as a tool for freedom rather than a scoreboard. The latter is no longer about survival or comfort or even security. It's about choice. And finally, $1 million a year and beyond, the top fraction of 1%. At this level, the rules of money change completely. Most people at $1 million a year aren't earning it from a single paycheck. Their money comes from ownership, businesses, equity, real estate investments, assets that generate income, whether they show up to work or not. That's the real secret at the top. The wealthy don't trade time for money anymore. They own things that make money for them. At $1 million a year, your investment returns alone can exceed what most people earn in a decade. Money is no longer a constraint on your life. It's a background force. You can be generous, take huge risks, and wait out any storm. But here's the twist that surprises people. Beyond a certain point, More money changes your daily life shockingly little. You can only sleep in one bed, eat so many meals. What it really buys at this level is options, security, and impact. The ability to shape not just your own life, but the lives of people around you. The person at $1 million a year and the person at 75,000 might wake up in a more similar world than you'd think. The real difference is what happens when something goes wrong and how many choices they get to make. So here's what the ladder actually teaches you. Every level solves the problems of the level below it and then hands you a brand new set. 0 is about survival. The middle is about stability and discipline. The top is about freedom, time, and meaning. But notice the pattern hiding underneath all of it. At almost every single level, the people who got ahead weren't just the ones who earned more. They were the ones who controlled the gap between what they made and what they spent. And put that gap to work. A person earning $50,000 who saves and invests can end up wealthier than someone earning $200,000 who spends it all. Income determines your starting speed, but your habits determine your direction. Wherever you are on this ladder right now, and everyone is somewhere, the next rung isn't just about making more. It's about keeping more and making the money you already have start working for you. So be honest with yourself. Which level are you standing on right now? And more importantly, what's the one habit that could move you to the next one? Because the ladder isn't fixed. People climb it and slip down it all the time. And the ones who climb steadily almost always share that same quiet skill. They make their money work as hard as they do. If seeing the whole ladder laid out like this was useful, subscribe to Capital Compass. Every week, we break down how money really works, from the bottom rung to the very top, with zero hype and zero judgment. Wherever you are right now, the next level is closer than it looks. I'll see you in the next one.